If you have been wondering why making more money has suddenly started to cause you more problems, I want you to lean in because this episode is for you. Did you know that only 1.9% of women business owners, 0.9% of Black business owners, and just 0.5% of Black women business owners ever cross the $1 million mark? Well, that changes right here. If you are ready for high-level, high-income conversations about all things millions, your mission, your mindset, your methodologies, your mandate, your movement, your messaging, your marketing, your metrics, and of course, your money, just by listening, your income is going all the way up. Every week, you'll hear powerful stories, transformative interviews, and $1 million business growth insights to help you scale and sustain a 7-figure business with grace and ease instead of hustle and grind. I am your host, Dr. Darnyelle, award-winning spiritual business growth strategist, 8-figure entrepreneur, and God girl on a mission to help you experience abundance in your life because of your business. This is the Move to Millions podcast. Welcome home. If this is your very first time here, welcome. I'm so excited for you, and I already know that this will not be your last because I am on a mission to transform the soul and strategy of business owners just like you so that you can make, move, leave, and net millions with grace and ease instead of hustle and grind. Now, if for some reason you don't already have a copy of my best-selling book, Move to Millions, The Proven Framework to Become a $1 Million CEO, I highly recommend that you add it to your professional library. That book and this powerful podcast is going to take your life and business to the next level. Now, I'll put a link for you to get access to the book in the show notes. All season long, we are having a different conversation on the show. And this is likely a conversation that you will not have anywhere else. This season is about what happens when success is no longer the problem. Yep, you heard me right. Your success has never been in question since before you were formed in your mother's womb. And it is time that you start acting like it because you are destined for success. This season, we are getting to the heart of the matter about what is really keeping you from 7 figures. And trust me, it is not what you think. And in this market, I know you think it's going to be harder than ever to hit 7 figures, but stick with me this season. In this episode, we're talking about one of my favorite topics of all time, and that is money. But not money for money's sake. We're talking about how money starts to expose and amplify the trauma that you have yet to heal. Over the last 18 years as a business coach and strategist, I have worked with a lot of business owners. And most of them, when they came to me, they thought they had a money problem or even a strategy problem. But the truth of the matter is that their problem was that their relationship with money was beginning to expose the stories that had been holding them back from their next level for years. Now, here's the thing that I want to make sure that you understand. Most of us have no idea that the stories that we are telling ourselves are actually subconscious stories. They are deeply ingrained into how we move and how we act on any given day. And as a result, it's not until our money starts to get impacted, whether positively or negatively, that the stories begin to rush to the surface. Now, don't get me wrong. These are not stories that you would tell publicly. These are not stories that would be carefully crafted on your website, and they are not stories that you would ever say out loud if you were being interviewed by someone. I'm talking about the quiet story. I'm talking about the subconscious story, the inherited story, the one that you have been protecting with everything that you have. I'm talking about the one that causes guilt and shame and financial trauma. These are the stories that have shaped how you learned how to survive and how you learned how to succeed. And here's the thing that I want you to understand is that money does not create these stories. Money only reveals them. Money brings the stories to the surface and it forces them to come face to face with the reality that you are not really proud of who you are and who you have been. And these stories often send you into negative spirals, causing emotions and actions that don't serve your best and highest good. It's important for you to remember that how you see money is really about how you see yourself. because money is a mirror, and it simply amplifies the reflection of the parts of you that you have been trying your best to keep tucked away. In a lot of ways, money isn't a tool, it's a truth teller. And for high-level leaders and CEOs like you, that kind of truth can feel deeply unsettling, overly embarrassing, and the root of the problems that are keeping you from growing to your next level. Listen, I am not just the person leading this podcast. I've been there, done that, and gotten the t-shirt. This is why conversations about money often feel so charged, and you don't even know why you go from being on 3 to on 10. Now, money doesn't just touch numbers. It touches memories and identity. It touches what you learned about your worth, safety, about power, and about belonging. It reminds you of whatever money did to you when you were growing up. And when money grows, the stories tend to grow louder, not because of only wrong things, but because the volume is being turned all the way up, because money is an amplifier of whatever it is that you've already experienced. Now, to ground this in some research, according to the Behavioral Science and Policy Association, they consistently show that financial behavior is driven far more by unconscious beliefs and internal narratives than by rational planning alone. In other words, people don't relate to money logically. They relate to money based on the stories that they have been telling themselves. Stories that were formed early. Stories that come from how they were raised and the trauma they experienced as children. Stories that are reinforced by their experiences, and stories that once protected them. Now, money doesn't argue with these stories. It merely amplifies them. So that means as your money grows, you don't just get more options, you get less filters and more reality and what you've experienced and what you've thought and what you caught and what you were taught as it pertains to money. Now, here is where CEOs like you often get caught off guard. You assume that growth will overwrite those old narratives, that success will automatically update your operating system. But here's the thing, money doesn't rewrite your story. It literally just hands your story a microphone and it magnifies it so that everybody can begin to hear it. That's why people can become overly anxious, more controlling, or sullen and withdrawn as they and their money grow. Not because money changed them, but because money removed those distractions, those things that were in the way. And now these stories are bubbling up on the surface. And they're creating expansion that removes the distractions. Now, when you are no longer fighting to survive, the stories that shaped your survival actually become more visible. And because money doesn't create these stories, but only gives them a microphone, it creates powerful revelations that often create regressions. It's deep, y'all, but I promise you, as you understand this, it can be the game changer that you most need. Now, there are a few common stories that money tends to expose at higher levels. These are stories like, I have to hold it all together or will all fall apart. If I rest, I risk losing momentum. If I get more, I'll lose the people who love me. My value comes from what I produce. Security is fragile. It must be managed. Or if I'm visible, I could lose everything that I've built. Hey, I hate to interrupt the goodness that's happening right now in this episode, but I need you to do me a quick favor. If this episode is blessing your life and business right now, would you please take a few minutes to rate and review the show? Listen, your words will help more seven-figure CEOs and seven-figure CEOs in the making find us and make the move to their next level. All right. Thank you so much. Now, let's get back into the conversation because we were literally just getting this party started. Now, what makes these stories so powerful is that they don't feel like fear. They actually feel like more responsibility or greater leadership or actually adulting and being mature, which is why so many CEOs never question the stories and what they're bubbling up to the surface. They just build their entire lives around the stories because the stories must be true. And the thing to keep in mind is that these stories aren't conscious decisions. They are internal agreements that formed when success required that they adapt. Agreements that once kept them safe. But money has a way of asking a very honest question. Simply asking, are you still willing to live by this story? And the question isn't about punishing you. It's an invitation to go deeper, to expose the story, and to heal from the story. When I think about this topic in this episode, it reminds me of a client whose business had been growing steadily for several years. The growth wasn't explosive. It was like, little tick points, just slight, subtle growth. But it was very consistent financially. And what surprised her wasn't the money herself. It was her reaction to the money and the increase in money. Instead of feeling more secure, she actually felt more tense. She started to notice herself checking her accounts more often, like she was waiting for the other shoe to drop. She started second guessing decisions that she used to be able to make those decisions easily. She started feeling on edge and anxious, and she couldn't quite explain it. At first, she assumed that something must be wrong with the numbers. So she went back to reviewing her projections. She tightened her plans, tried to think her way back into becoming calm. But eventually, something deeper came to the surface. She realized that she was living inside of a story that she had never questioned. The story was, if I relax, something will fall apart. Now, that story had helped her build. It kept her hypervigilant. It made her very responsible. But as the business began to stabilize, the story didn't loosen. It actually heightened and intensified. Yes, there is a reason that your strategy feels stalled, and it's spiritual. Discover your divine wiring, which informs how you lead, where you're sabotaging, and how to make the shift to scale with the Move to Millions Ascension Archetypes quiz. In just 3 minutes, you'll learn what's really blocking your money, your momentum, and your mission. Take the quiz today at movetomillionsquiz.com. Success didn't erase it. It just made it bigger. It highlighted it more, because the more that she had to lose, the louder her story became. The moment that things began to shift for her wasn't when she started fixing anything. It's when she made a startling realization, and she said, the story actually served me once upon a time, but I don't know if it still fits the life that I'm living today. And she just gave herself the space to sit with that. She didn't try to answer it. She didn't look for solutions. She just became aware. That did not change her story. It just gave her an opportunity to decide to change the way she related to what the story used to be. Now, all of this is very important that you understand, because if you keep listening to this show, your money is going to go all the way up. And when it goes up, you're going to need to know how to deal with it, right? Because the story doesn't come from out of nowhere. The way it surfaces, the way it tightens, the way it will attach itself to money and the responsibility of money, it won't be random. And we don't all tell ourselves the same story as our success grows. And because we don't all brace in the same exact way, the story money amplifies is going to depend on what your money story is and how you've been wired to lead, to protect yourself, and to make meaning under the pressure that the money starts to create for you. That's why this next part is not about labels. It's about recognition. Because once you can see how you are wired and how it's shaping the story that you're living inside of, you can stop trying to change the outcome and start questioning the narrative that's been running the show. You get to begin to tell yourself a different story. Now, the story that money often reveals is going to depend on the origin of the story and how you've been wired to deal with the story that money is creating for you. As the creator of the Ascension Archetypes quiz, I realized after serving thousands of CEOs just like you that very specific patterns kept showing up. Patterns that I wanted to give language to so that business owners could see themselves more clearly and lead more powerfully. Now, I realized as I began to do this work that there are 5 different archetypes that could emerge. We have the performer, the producer, the pathmaker, the powerhouse, and the prophet. Once you know who you are, then through this powerful framework, you'll be able to experience the shifts that are required to position your business to make millions without highlighting a story that no longer serves you. Now, if you haven't taken the quiz yet, That's okay. It literally takes 3 minutes, and you can do so right now at movetomillionsquiz.com. There's a link in the show notes. Now, once you get your archetype, I want you to let me know. I want you to tag me in an Instagram story so that I can celebrate the awareness with you. Now, if you are a performer, money often reveals a story about approval, a belief that being loved, being valued, or being safe depends on how well you are received by others. So success tends to increase pressure to maintain connection through performance. Not because you're insecure, but because visibility was once how you stayed safe. For my producers, money is going to reveal a story about responsibility. It's going to highlight a belief that stability exists only when you are managing everything and producing, right? So growth tends to tighten its grip, not because you don't trust yourself or those who are supporting you, but because control once prevented chaos from entering deeper into your world. If you're a pathmaker, money is going to reveal a story about time, a belief that safety lives in what is coming next. So success begins to pull you forward away from the present moment. And when you're pulled into the future, more fear tends to show up. Not because you're dissatisfied, but because anticipation was once what protected you. If you are a powerhouse, money is going to reveal a story about strength, a belief that leadership actually requires that you constantly be in command. So success is going to keep you armored, right? Not because you lack softness, but because authority is once what kept you safe. And for my prophets, money is going to reveal a story about truth, a belief that clarity carries consequences. So growth increases internal pressure and restraint, not because out of nowhere you've developed a new set of fears, but because perception once came with a tremendous amount of risk. No matter which of the archetypes you are, there will be a story that you will likely have been telling yourself as it pertains to money. Now, if any of this felt like exactly what you are experiencing, know this: these stories don't just shape how you make money, they shape how safe you feel while you're holding the money that you make. And if we're going to get you solidly and sustainably to the 7-figure mark, you're going to have to learn how to feel safe with money. Now, here's the most important thing that I want you to understand right now. Stories feel true because they were once necessary. But the story that helped you to survive is not always the story that can help you sustain. And necessity does not make a story permanent. Money doesn't ask you to abandon your story. It asks whether you're willing to examine it and see if it's still true and if it needs to be in your life. Just like a strategy cannot do that work, you have to become aware. Only awareness is going to bring you into a reality to first see the story so that you can examine the story and eventually decide if you want to change the story. This is why understanding your Ascension archetype is so important. Because when you don't know how you're wired, your story will start to feel like a reality. And when you live into it, everything has the potential to shift. You can realize that this is how you learn to succeed. And this is what you're actually right now being asked to outgrow. The quiz will give you the language for those money moments. And once you take it, you can go even deeper with the private podcast that was created specifically for you by your archetype, where I break down how you have been unknowingly sabotaging your success across the 7 pillars inside of the Move to Millions method. And if you want to go deeper than that, you have the ability to access your Divine Design Report, a 37-page blueprint that shows you exactly how you're wired to make, move, and leave millions through your business. I'm going to show you how you relate to money, where money is causing a problem, and what you need to shift around money. You can get started right now by going to movetomillionsquiz.com. For many of the CEOs and business owners that we come into contact with, this is the very first time that they realize that they're not reacting to money, they're actually responding to an old story. And because they are now aware of this, they can start to move different. And this is what creates an entirely different environment for you to take your life and your business to the absolute next level. It's a game changer. It's been such a game changer, not just for me, but clients inside of our program, because we've been able to help them to give voice to what it is that they haven't been able to voice before. So as we close out this episode, I want you to remember this. Money doesn't fix your story. It invites you to see it. And it invites you to see it clearly so that you can understand how you respond, how you react, and how you relate to money. And seeing it is the beginning of the freedom, because that awareness actually puts you in a position to develop a new, safe, and affirming relationship with money. Yes, there is a reason that your strategy feels stalled, and it's spiritual. Discover your divine wiring, which informs how you lead, where you're sabotaging, and how to make the shift to scale with the Move to Millions Ascension Archetypes quiz. In just 3 minutes, you'll learn what's really blocking your money, your momentum, and your mission. Take the quiz today at movetomillionsquiz.com. One where you feel safe with money and money feels safe with you. And when that happens, you begin to hold more money than you can give, spend, invest, or save at any one time. And that is when you actually put yourself in position to become the sanctuary. That's what's going to give you the capacity and truly be the change that you wish to see inside of the world. Y'all, this is a game changer. And a lot of the work that we're doing now is about this. So in our next episode, we're going to talk about why every new level creates a new devil and what happens when those unresolved stories meet expanded responsibility. Now, until we get to the next episode, there's a few things that I want you to do. I want you to look at the story you've been telling yourself. I don't want you to judge it. I just want you to understand it. I want you to recognize where there's an opportunity for you to make a powerful and poignant shift, specifically as it relates to money. Why is this so important? Because every single day you are constantly bombarded with money decisions. You don't even have to do anything related to money to have to make a money decision. Example, if you decide when you wake up in the morning to turn on the lights in your house or to turn on the water to take a shower, guess what? That's a money decision. Every day we are constantly bombarded with money decisions. And most leaders, most business owners, in my experience, regardless of how much money they have, they feel tension, they feel anxiety, and they feel stress making money decisions. Well, here's the thing. Money isn't going anywhere. Money is a very important of life. So even saying things like it's not about the money, that's a lie, because it is about the money. We always have to think about money. And because we're always thinking about money, we have to shift how we're relating to money. Once you actually get to the point where you and money are like this, you will start to experience so much more of it. I want you to think about money being like the most important relationship you will ever be in, because it is. Maybe second only to God. Money is that important. And I'm not putting it on this hierarchy to make you lose sight of what's most important. I'm putting it here because I want you to understand that every single day you are making decisions as it pertains to money. And as an entrepreneur or small business owner, you are constantly having to evaluate based on these decisions. If there is tension that constantly lives inside of your body when you have to make a money decision, that is keeping money at bay, and money won't come and spend time with you. Like I said earlier, you need to feel safe with money, but guess what? Money also needs to feel safe with you. It's a symbiotical relationship, right? It goes both ways. And if we can create an environment for you to be that safety, then money will show up inside of your life experience, and there will be more of it than you know what to do with. Because the more comfortable you become with money, the more your capacity for money expands. And trust me when I tell you, if you desire to have 7 figures a year netting in your business, I'm not talking about top line $1 million in revenue. I'm talking about top line at least 3 million, bottom line at least 1 million. That is an amount of money that you are probably not comfortable holding. And it is likely part of the reason why at this moment you keep praying for and putting on your vision board and journaling about getting the 7 figures, but you can't actually make it happen. Or if you have gotten the 7 figures, but you haven't sustained it, it's because you never created the capacity to hold it. This is why this is so important. And you've got to understand the stories that money exposes, because once we know the story, we can radically dismantle the story. We can rewrite the story. We can change the story, and we can allow the story to serve us in our best and highest ways. Listen, if this episode has brought you any level of clarity or comfort, do yourself a favor, rate, review, and subscribe so that you never miss a moment of an opportunity to make the move to millions. Remember, millions are your birthright, and to access them, you need only move. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Thank you for joining me for the Move to Millions podcast. Every seven-figure CEO has a divine design, and yours is waiting to be revealed. Take the Ascension Archetype quiz today at movetomillionsquiz.com, and you'll uncover how you're wired for wealth and what needs to shift in order for you to make the move with grace and ease instead of hustle and grind. Now, if this episode blessed you, do me a favor, subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. And always remember, millions are your birthright, and to access them, you need only move. Take care.